The first section of the football fundamentals is possession. And the first possession fundamental is a live ball is always in possession of a team. While the ball is live and a down is in progress, the ball is either in player possession or it is loose. The ball becomes loose when it is kicked, passed, or fumbled. No matter if the live ball is loose or in the possession of a player, it is always in possession of a team. Of course, when a player possesses the ball, his team is in possession. But possession can get a little complicated when the ball becomes loose. As a reminder, a ball becomes loose when it is kicked, passed, or fumbled. When the ball is kicked, passed, or fumbled, the team that kicked, passed, or fumbled the ball still has team possession. And they maintain team possession until their opponent secures possession of the loose ball or the ball becomes dead by rule. The opponent can secure possession by intercepting the pass, recovering or intercepting the fumble, or possessing the kick. When one of those occurs, they are now in team possession through what we call a change of possession. Free kick in the air, the kicking team is in team possession until the kick ends. Forward pass in the air, the passing team is in team possession until the pass ends. Ball on the ground after it was fumbled, the team that fumbled the ball retains team possession until the ball becomes dead by rule or the opponent secured possession. The implications of this fundamental. The distinction of team possession is crucial to penalty enforcement when fouls occur during plays in which the ball is at some point loose. It is imperative that you know exactly when a foul occurs and which team is in possession of the ball when such a foul occurs. If B fouls after they gain possession, with what we call clean hands, they can, usually, keep the ball after the penalty is enforced. That would not necessarily be the case if they fouled while A was still in team possession. The next possession fundamental is a live ball is in player possession or is loose. There are two ways a dead ball becomes live: legal snap or free kick. Once the ball is free kicked or legally snapped, it remains live until it becomes dead by rule. While the ball is live, it can only have one of two statuses. It has to be either in the possession of a player or it has to be loose. We already know the three ways a ball becomes loose. It becomes loose by kicking it, fumbling it, or passing it. The ball is in player possession until that player either kicks it, fumbles it, or passes it. While the ball is loose after it has been kicked, fumbled, or passed, there is no longer player possession. There is, however, team possession. Once a player secures possession of the kick, fumble, or pass, the loose ball in other words, new player possession is established, and team possession will either remain or there will be a change of possession. A player first secures possession of a live ball by having it snapped to him to start a scrimmage down, or kicked to him by way of a free kick during a free kick down. After the snap or free kick ends, another player, AK or BR, can secure possession by catching a pass, having the ball handed to him, recovering a fumble, or intercepting a fumble. The implications of this fundamental. Many penalty enforcements now take into consideration the spot where the run or related run ends. The end of the related run is where the player in possession of the ball loses possession of the ball. In other words, where he fumbles. It is important to know when and where that player lost possession because that will have a huge role in penalty enforcement if a foul occurs during the running play. The spot the player loses possession shall be marked with a beanbag. The next possession fundamental states, a loose ball is in possession of the team whose player was last in possession. Here's a quick review. A ball is either in player possession or it is loose after having been kicked, fumbled, or passed. It's loose after K kicks it during a free kick down, and it's loose after a runner fumbles it, and it's loose after a player passes it. While the ball is loose in all three scenarios, there is no player possession. There is, however, team possession, and the team in possession is the team whose player kicked, fumbled, or passed the ball. There is always team possession during the down, but not always player possession. The implications of this fundamental. Again, penalty enforcement will many times be based on the status of the ball and the team in possession of the ball at the time of the foul. The next possession fundamental states a player in possession of a live ball is a runner. This is the definition of a runner, which you can find under 232.13. There is another definition of a runner, but it's not relevant to this discussion. A quote runner does not actually have to be running in order to be a runner by definition. If for whatever reason a player is standing still holding the ball, he's a runner. A player who receives the snap and is waiting to hand the ball off to a teammate is a runner. A player standing in the pocket looking to pass the ball to a teammate is also a runner. The implications of this fundamental. Opponents can only tackle the runner. If an opponent tackles a non-runner, you are very well looking at a possible hold or pass interference. A ball in the hands of a runner is out of bounds when the runner touches anything except another player or an official that is out of bounds, or when the ball in the hands of a runner touches anything except another player or an official that is out of bounds. The next possession fundamental is a player cannot fumble before gaining possession. The definition of a fumble is, quote, any loss of player possession other than by handing, passing, or legal kick. The key part of the definition is the player possession, meaning that in order to fumble the ball, a player must first have possession of the ball. You cannot fumble something that you don't possess. One thing a player can do prior to possession is muff the ball. A muff is basically a failed attempt to gain possession of a loose ball. If a player attempts to recover a grounded fumble, but instead of possessing it, he lets the ball slip through his hands, he has muffed the ball. He has not fumbled it because he did not have possession. The implications of this fundamental. Under the newer penalty enforcement rules, the spot of a fumble is important and it should be marked with a beanbag each and every time. It identifies the end of the related run. However, there is no need to beanbag a muff, except when it involves touching. A ball that has been handed from one player to another, legally kicked by a player, or passed by a player does not constitute a fumble, and the spot of the handing, kick, or pass does not need to be marked because you would never need to know that spot. However, if the handing is illegal, for example, forward, the kick is illegal, for example, beyond the neutral zone, or the pass is illegal, again, a pass made from beyond the neutral zone, the spot would be marked with a penalty flag because those are spot fouls. But they do not establish a change of possession or loss of possession, so they don't need to be marked as such. Finally, when we discuss kicks, this fundamental will become extremely important. Here's a hint. Kicks do not end when the kick is muffed. The next possession fundamental states no foul causes loss of the ball. There is no penalty for any foul that would require the offending team to give up the football. Penalties are either 5, 10, or 15 yards and are enforced from the basic spot. But under no circumstance would a team be forced to relinquish possession of the ball as a penalty for a foul. There are situations where an opponent could foul and even if the penalty is accepted, gain possession of the football. PSK is an example. And there are times when the team in possession fouls and does lose possession of the ball after enforcement. An illegal forward pass on fourth down after enforcement leaves the ball behind the line to gain is one example. But the offending team gains or loses the ball because of specific penalty enforcement rules, not because the enforcement dictates a team has to give up possession of the football. Which team has the ball after penalty enforcement is based on the penalty, the down, the distance penalty, the status of the ball, whether it's live or dead, when the foul happened, and when and where the foul occurred. The implications of this fundamental. While no enforcement demands a team relinquish possession of the ball as a penalty, there are times that a change of possession could result. You have to understand all the intricacies of penalty enforcement to know who will be the next to put the ball in play after a foul occurs and is penalized. The next possession fundamental is, after a distance penalty, the ball belongs to the team which was last in possession at the time of the foul according to applicable rules. Team possession may then change if a new series is awarded. This expands on the previous fundamental. As we said, a team can never be forced to give up possession of the ball as a penalty. However, there are situations where they would be required to give up the team possession after enforcement based on the rules of enforcement and the awarding of a new series. The starting point for possession after any penalty is enforced is the team that is in possession of the ball at the time the foul occurs maintains possession, and the down is replayed. However, there are instances when the team in possession at the time of the foul would not be given team possession, and thus a new series of downs. Here are a few examples. A loss of down foul on fourth down in which the ball is left behind the line to gain after enforcement. A was guilty of the illegal forward pass while in team possession. Kick catching interference, or KCI. When this happens, R has options. Two of those are to retain possession after enforcing a 15-yard penalty. In KCI, K fouled while still in team possession, but the down is not replayed. Post-scrimmage kick fouls, or PSK. When these occur, R retains possession of the ball after enforcing R's foul. Note, R must be the next to put the ball in play for PSK to apply. K is in possession of the ball at the time of the foul, but does not retain possession after the foul. And finally, the 10-4-2 exception, which states that fouls by K during a legal scrimmage or free kick prior to the end of the kick, and when K will not be the next to put the ball in play. KCI does not apply to this exception. In these instances, K fouls while still in team possession. Note that the offending team in these examples does not retain possession only if the acceptance of penalties does not result in a double foul, or if the offended team chooses not to replay the down. The implications of this fundamental. In addition to knowing penalty enforcement, you must understand when teams are awarded a new series and specifically when a new series is awarded after a foul. Loss of down fouls on fourth down could leave a team without possession after enforcement. So too would certain fouls on fourth down if A did not reach the line to gain based on the results of the play alone. Finally, PSK fouls would allow R to retain possession of the ball if they had possession of the ball at the end of the down. While K would be in team possession at the time of the foul, specific enforcement of PSK fouls enables R to retain possession after enforcement as long as other conditions are met. And our final possession fundamental tells us possession of a live ball in the opponent's end zone is always a touchdown. When a player is in possession of the ball in his opponent's end zone, you can have nothing other than a touchdown. It doesn't matter how the ball got into the end zone or who put the ball into the end zone or why the ball is in the end zone. If a live ball is in player possession and that player is in his opponent's end zone, it is a touchdown. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Carrying the ball into the end zone, recovering a fumble in the end zone, catching a pass in the end zone. The results of each of these plays is a touchdown. Again, it does not matter how the ball got into the end zone. It is always a touchdown. The implications of this fundamental. When you see a player in possession of the ball in his opponent's end zone, you don't have to think about anything else. You can signal touchdown right away.